Hello, my name is David Pickett. I'm inventor of IceCold. We're going to look at how to do an installation of the IceCold synthetic catalyst technology into the typical automobile. First of all, we're going to start the car up, turn the air conditioner on, recirculate and on low fan. The reason we do that is because what we're interested in is the temperature of the coil. And with the air flowing at low speed, we've got a better chance of telling what the temperature of the coil is. And of course, on recirculate, we're pulling the cold air out of the car, again trying to determine what the temperature of the evaporator coil is. And we're going to determine what the pressure, the running pressure is. There's several ways to do that. You could go with a full gauge set, but typically what we're going to do is measure the pressure, the low side service port pressure, to determine whether or not the system's operating properly. Obviously, if it's low on refrigerant, we need to add some. Then what we're going to do is we're going to use your typical recharger hose that you can buy for $10 just about anywhere. And here's our vacuum pack can. This has 0.6 ounces of IceCold in it, which is the exact right amount for a typical automobile or small truck. And the interesting thing is that we actually pressure this can up. So what we're going to do is after we determine what the baseline temperature of this system is, we'll go inside the car and we'll use the laser digital thermometer. We'll determine what the vent air temperature of the car is as a baseline. Then the way we're going to put the IceCold catalyst into the system is we're going to hook the can, plug the can into the charging hose, and then we'll turn the engine off. We'll connect the charging hose and then pierce the can and back the valve back off. And the static pressure, with the engine not running, the static pressure is about 60 or 80 pounds. This will charge the top of the can with 60 to 80 pounds of the system's refrigerant. Again, so we don't have to add any. Then what we'll do is we'll turn the can upside down, restart the engine, and the running pressure is somewhere around 30 to 40 pounds. So the pressure differential will push the IceCold into the system. Now, the automobile air conditioning system is typically pretty small coils, short hoses, so we'll see a full reaction within about 5 to 10 minutes. After that short period of time, we'll recheck the temperature of the supply vents and see how much IceCold has lowered the vents. Okay, now that the engine's running and the air conditioner is on, we're going to check the pressure of the low side service port to see if this vehicle has the proper amount of refrigerant in it already. We're indicating about 30 pounds, which tells us we've got a proper degree of charge. It's about 70 degrees today. It's a little cool, but this shows that we're probably properly charged. And the next thing we're going to do is determine what the supply air in this car is as we found it. We're going to take the temperature of one of the middle vents. The side vents are too far away from the coil, and they have a long pipe, and you don't get a true reading of the coil temperature. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take a quick shot, just like taking a picture with a camera. First of all, we make sure the system's working. We'll just take a quick shot and then let you read that. It reads 44 degrees, which is very low, but again, it's a 70-degree day, and typically on a warm or hot day, you're going to read more like 51 degrees. We're going to go ahead and install the IceCold and see how large a temperature drop we can get. Okay, so now we're ready to install the IceCold in the vacuum pack can. So the first thing we need to do, of course, we've already attached the filler valve onto the can. Next thing we're going to do is reach down in here and attach the filler hose, charging hose, to the low side service port. Now we're going to puncture the can and let the static pressure in. And I don't know if you'll be able to hear this or not, the mic down here. What's going to happen is the high pressure, the high static pressure, hear that? The high static pressure is run into this can. Now, because of the refrigeration cycle, this can is now hot because we've now pressurized it with the refrigerant that was in the system. Again, by using this vacuum pack can system. We're not going to add any refrigerant to the system because it didn't need any. Now, if this had needed some refrigerant, we might have used one of the cans that has the R134A already in it. We could have added a couple of ounces while we were doing this. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn the can upside down, so the liquid's now on the bottom, and we're going to start the engine, and the lower pressure on the suction side will draw the ice cold out of the can. Now typically I'll let this run for about 1 minute. We think pretty much all the fluid is pulled out within the first few seconds, but we can let it go ahead and run for about 1 minute to make sure that all of the ice cold has run down the hose. We've got about a 1 foot long hose here, and we want to make sure that all the ice cold has run down that hose and into the system. So we'll typically let the car run for about 1 minute. Then I'm going to disconnect the hose, and we're going to let this car run for about 5 or 10 minutes, make sure it's going to get as cold as it ever will, and we're going to measure the vent air temperature again. I just disconnected the hose, and if you noticed, no fluid, no liquid ran out. That meant that all the liquid that was in this can is now in that system. Now always be sure and replace your customer's dust cap. It's really not good for that valve to get dirty, so we always remember to replace the dust cap. And before we close the hood, we make sure we have everything moved, including our fingers. Okay, we've installed the ice cold in the system and let the car run for a few minutes. Typically, we want to drive the car about 20 miles to let the ice cold fully mix with the system. The flow dynamics are a lot slower than you think they are. The refrigerant is moving quite slow through the system. It just takes a little while for the ice cold to actually wash away, or literally move away, the oil fouling back to the compressor sump. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and check the temperature again and see how much the ice cold has dropped it. Again, this is about a 70-degree day. Normally we would see the initial temperature of around 51 degrees. So let's see what kind of a drop we get. That's a pretty typical drop on an automobile system. People are usually shocked at the drop that they get. We like to call this the jaw drop factor. Ice cold is what it's doing is by adding, say, 30% to the heat exchange, we're making the coils virtually larger. Also, ice cold works particularly well with R134A systems. That's why we always see the large drop on an automobile. Now, the one thing that this customer will enjoy is that when he has really hot weather and he gets into his car and it's stifling in here, he can count on having cold vent air in less than a minute. He can count on his cab being cool in less than 5 minutes, or we'll give him his money back. And that's good for the lifetime of the vehicle.